Hi guys! We're going to continue to read from The Thief of Always. Oh, it's backwards, I know. And check out this illustration. And the title of this chapter 17 is The Cook, Cat, and the Coffin. The Coffin. Artrim, I hope another cat doesn't die. That could be horrible. All right, here we go. When we last left off, remember Rictus is waiting for them. Great to have you back, boy, Rictus said, his smile as wide as ever. I told you everyone wouldn't be able to stay away. Nobody believed me. He's gone, they said, he's gone. But I knew better. He started to wander towards Harvey. I knew you wouldn't be satisfied with a little visit. Not with so much fun still to be had. I'm hungry, Wendell whined. Help yourselves, Rictus grinned. Wendell was off at a sprint into the kitchen. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, he cried. Look at all this food. Harvey didn't reply. Aren't you hungry? Rictus said, raising an eyebrow high above his spectacles. He cupped his hand behind his ear. That sounds like an empty stomach to me. Where's Mrs. Griffin? Harvey said. Oh, she's around, Rictus said. But she's getting old. She takes to her bed a good deal of these days, so we laid her down somewhere safe and sound. As he spoke, there was a mewing sound from the living room, and there at the door stood Stew Cat. Rictus scowled. Get out of here! Can't you see we're having a conversation? But Stew Cat wasn't about to be intimidated. She sauntered over to Harvey, rubbing herself against his legs. What do you want? Harvey said, going down on his haunches to stroke her. She purred loudly. Hey, that's fine and dandy, Rictus said, putting off his anger in favor of a freshly polished smile. You like the cat, cat likes you, everybody is happy. I'm not happy, Harvey said. And why's that? I left all my presents here and I don't know where. No problem, said Rictus. I'll find them for you. Would you do that? Harvey said. Sure, kid, said Rictus, persuaded that his charm was working again. That's what we're all here for, to give you whatever your heart desires. I think maybe I left them up in my bedroom, Harvey suggested. You know, I think I saw them up there, Rictus replied. You stay right here and I'll be right back. He took himself up the stairs 2, 3 at a time, whistling tunelessly through his teeth as he ascended. Harvey waited, ascended, rise, descended, until he disappeared from sight and then went to check on Wendell, letting Stew Cat slip away. Ah, now, look at this, a voice said as he appeared at the kitchen door. It was Jive. He was standing at the stove, juggling eggs with one hand and tossing pancakes in a pan with the other. What do you fancy, he said, sweet or savory? Sweet, pancakes, savory, eggs. Nothing, Harvey said. It's all good, Wendell piped up. He was almost hidden behind a wall of filled plates. Try the apple turnovers, they're great. Harvey was sorely tempted. The buffet looked wonderfully tempting, but it was just dust. He had to keep remembering that. Maybe later, he said, averting his eyes from the heaps of syrup-drenched waffles and bowls of ice cream. Where are you going? Jive wanted to know. Mr. Rictus is finding a few presents for me, Harvey said. Jive smiled with satisfaction. You're getting back into the swing of things, kiddo, he said. Good for you. I missed being here, Harvey replied. He didn't linger, just in case Jive saw the lie in his eyes, but turned and headed back into the hallway. Stew Cat was there staring at him. What is it? He said. The cat took off towards the stairs, then stopped and cast a backward glance. Have you something to show me? Harvey whispered. At this, the cat bounded off again. Harvey followed, expecting her to lead the way upstairs. But before she could reach the bottom step, she veered off to the left and led Harvey down a narrow passage to the door he had never even noticed before. He rattled the handle, but the door was locked. Turning to look for Stew Cat, he found her rubbing her arched back against the leg of a small table nearby. On the table was a carved wooden box, and in the box was a key. He went back to the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. There was a flight of wooden steps in front of him, leading down into the darkness from which a sour, dank smell arose. He might have declined to descend had Stew Cat not hurried on past him, down into the murk. With his fingers trailing on the damp walls to the left and right of him, he followed Stew Cat to the bottom of the flight, counting the steps as he went. There were 52, and by the time he had descended them, his eyes had become reasonably accustomed to the gloom. The cellar was cavernous, but empty, except for a little litter of rubble and a large wooden box. Let's go back to what the title of this chapter was. The Cook, the Cat, and the Coffin. Here we go. That's why, people, you have to stop and thread. You can even stop the tape. All right. What is it? He hissed to Stew Cat, knowing the creature had no way of replying but hoping for some sign. Stew Cat's only answer was to run across the floor and limp nimbly onto the box where it began to claw at the wood. Harvey's curiosity was stronger than his fear, but not so much stronger that he dashed to pull off the lid. He's too smart for that. He approached as though the box had some sleeping beast in it, which, for all he knew, it was true. There could be a beast in there. The closer to it he got, the more it resembled a crude-looking coffin. But what kind of coffin was sealed with a padlock? Was this where Karna had been laid, perhaps, after the beast dragged its wounded body back home? Was it even now listening to Stew Cat scratching the lid, waiting to be released? As he came within a yard of the casket, however, he laid eyes on clue to its contents. An apron string left hanging out of the box by whoever had locked it. It could be the cook, who was Mrs. Griffin. He knew of only one person in the house who wore an apron. Mrs. Griffin, he whispered, digging his fingernails under the lid. Mrs. Griffin, are you there? There was a muffled thump inside. I'm going to get you out, he promised, hauling on the lid as hard as he could. He didn't have the strength to break the lock. In desperation, he began to search the cellar, looking for some tool or another, and found himself 2 sizable stones. Hefting them, he returned to the casket. Lifting. This is going to be noisy, he warned Mrs. Griffin. Then, using one stone as a kind of a chisel and the other as a hammer, he assaulted the rock. Blue sparks flew as he struck at the metal, but he seemed to be making no impression until, all of a sudden, the lock gave a loud crack and fell to the ground. He paused for a moment, a feather of doubt brushing his brow. Suppose it was Karna's coffin. Then he threw the rocks aside and hauled off the lid. This is the padlock that he broke. So guys, this is a good time to thread. We are more than halfway done with this book. We're up to page 148, and the book ends at 240. So we're more than halfway. So you've got to do some real threading of this book. Go back and think, even if you jot it down, what's been happening. I still can't believe he went back there. And why would they put Mrs. Griffin in a coffin? Things to think about, my friends.